Okay, hi guys, and welcome back to part 5 of the Tony Ray 1.6 meter, 1.5 meter Tiger Moth DH82. And we're going to start this one with the center section of the wing, which is actually the fuel tank, top wing, and the cabane struts. And we're going to fit it to the fuselage. That's the plan anyways. So let me show you what I've just released from the sheets. I've got C1 to C6, not including C5. And looking at the picture, I haven't assembled it yet, so it might want a bit of filing. C1 is in the center. We've got C3 in the, let's have a look, so we can work this out. C3 goes, for reference, there's a leading edge bird tuft cut in the front of the three, let's call them ribs. In fact, rewind, there's one in the back as well, just to confuse us. Okay, so looking at the picture, that is what I'm going to call the front, looking at the picture. So that goes in, that's C2 position. I think C3 goes like that. So it's got this square box here then. So C2 goes at the back, like that. And then I've got C4. And so it's going to be very easy to get it, possibly anyway, back to front. So have a good look at the picture, make sure it corresponds with what you're doing. There we go, like a lovely big jigsaw. And these are sticking out like that, same as the picture. Well, there we are, that looks pretty much like the, yeah. And then C6 goes in there and then up. And in like that. And then there's another C6 just scrolling down. I need two C6As which go on here first, and then I'm guessing this one goes on top of that. Yeah, all right. Just let me dig out the C6As on sheet number D1. Definitely worth printing out the sheets that tell you, the two sheets at the top of the instructions that tell you where to find each component. So these go on, they're doubled up, C6As, they go in the middle there. And then the other one goes on the top. So I think we need to certainly glue those two together, and they can be drying. And I think, well, I could assemble it with CA and run white glue around all the joins, or I could just assemble it with white glue, which is what I'll probably do, to be honest. While that's drying, just look at the next stage, and the next stage is, now yes, these two bits here, C4A, are in sheet D1, but these pieces here, C4As, came out of this. And this was inside a former, I think it was, but wherever it was, I put it to one side. So if you're looking for it, it is there, it's just inside that bit there. Now these bits here, C4B, C4A, and these I think were something else, we'll come to those in a moment. You have to fit these nuts inside of all these little triangular holes. I had one nut earlier on which had a mis-drilled hole in the middle, so you might want to make sure that all the holes are, all the nuts are made the same and they all work, because once they're glued in and you can't screw your bolt in for some reason, yeah, it's too late. And I think the way I'm going to do it is, it's quite a tight fit, which is good. I just put it like that and I'm going to go hammer it in, and then I'm just going to run some CA around it, make sure it's not skewed. I'm going to run some CA around it, and I'm going to put a bolt in and out to make sure the threads are clear. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do with all these 6, 7, 8 in total nuts. Rightio, that's all the little nuts in, checked and glued. So then moving on, let's go back, make sure, yep. Now these bits here go on the inside of these bits here. Now those holes will have to line up with the nuts, otherwise you're not going to be able to bolt stuff in. And being laser cut, of course, they're pretty accurate. I might put this one on this side actually. So I'm going to have to use white glue on that with the odd little sprinkling of CA around it just to hold it. So I'm going to put some there, some there, and there maybe, and there. So I'll pop that in there. Get it all lined up. Sometimes people ask, what glue do I use? I use white glue and I use CA, and sometimes I use it in conjunction. So really the CA is actually just holding the part in place as it dries in this case. So those holes line up. Pop that one over there. C4B, these little round ones, and they go on the inside of here. There's a single hole, they go on there. And they have to be visible from the other side. I was just going to think I could put a bolt through to hold it in place, but I think I might use white glue because then I can bring the bolt out. I'm not going to leave it in there because it'll stay glued in, just enough to hold it there while it sets off fractionally. I'll let it set there for a minute, put that one in, then I'll take it out and put a peg on. Right, and the last bit I think is, I know where it's going to go. S4Bs are going to go in there, just where that peg is. So these have to line up with the holes in the top. I'll pop those on in a minute while it's when those are set a bit. So I need CC2. Right, CC2. That's going to go exactly where they are as well. I'll have to add these pieces in a minute when they're dry. Actually, that's lucky. Well, it's not lucky, I would have spotted it. These pieces here don't go on that side, they go on this side. There you go, guys. Take a good look at these things before you commit. So I'm going to centre those up on those holes there. And then when they're on, this piece here goes on the top like that. Proud. Oh, I see there's a couple of bits to go on the outside of that as well. That was the, I don't think they're listed, that's C1's centre section. CC1. If you're following along with this video, guys, then thank you very much. Give it a thumbs up if you're gaining some information and some tips, hopefully. Okay, let's crack on. On the part location lookup forms, which we printed off, haven't we? CC2 and CC1. CC1 is this sheet here, which is on sheet E4. This is the skinning that goes over the top. Put that to one side for the minute. The other thing to be aware of is suddenly on step 9 of the centre section, these appear. These go on the outside and they are part C5 to be found on sheet E2. Okay, so you're going to need those. That's not on the instructions. I'm just going to pop these off. I think they'll be okay now. Been on 15 or 20 minutes and they're still nice and clear. Okay, so the next part were these little ones here, the S4Bs, and they go on this side, not that side, the opposite side to the little round ones, and they have to go on. They don't go right up in the corner because the holes have to line up with the holes that are underneath. So they go about 1/16 of an inch in, I would say, about the thickness of one of those bits of plywood. Yeah, it's lined up pretty accurately with that. So it might be worth getting a piece of scrap of this ply just to put as a wedge inside the edge there, just so as you can line it up easily like that. Line it up and then you can take that one out. So let me just get a little bit of scrap. So as long as I don't glue that piece of wood in there, it should be okay. So I'll be not too liberal with the glue. Like that. Put that against there, put that in there, and pull that straight out. That hole, that nut is perfectly centered. That's good. You don't want these plates parting company because you won't be able to screw your cabane on, although probably once it's on, it's on. But okay, next one. That'll be CC2, which is step 8. And that goes right over the top like that. And that has to, these holes have to line up with the bolt holes down there. So you can get your screwdriver in, I suppose. I suggest you just eyeball it in over the top. I've got a gap there of about 3mm. Before I glue that on. So what I'm going to do, because I've got the sheet at the top, before I put these side bits on, I'm just going to make sure everything's the same level. While I can sand it. That's worth doing because there's very slight variances in the angle of the laser cut in and the assembly. So it's worth doing because you've got to sheet it all flat. So I suggest you do the same. Okay, now CC2 goes over the top of that, but I am going to run in some white glue around some of these joints because I want to make sure they are as tight as they can be, and the wing center section is quite an important part. Right, that's nice. Right, let's carry on then. We were going to put in CC2. The position isn't absolutely essential. I'm going to put CC2 on the inside, and it saves trying to sand that mark out. It's got to be there. Just obviously sighting down through the holes onto the nuts. So I'm going to put this on with CA. It parallel and just sight it down like that. So we move on to step 9, and that's, put that back in there, and that is these end panels, C5s. I'm going to put the number on the inside, and that's going to go on there, and that leaves you then a ledge for these to sit between. There's a small amount of variance there that can move up and down just slightly, so I would focus on getting that wing slot nicely open. Just before I do put it on, there's a little bit of glue squeezed out there, gone hard, so I'm just going to take that off so as that end panel goes on nice and flat. Okay, this, I'm going to put this on with white glue, because it's simply too much to stick on with CA. Being a little bit careful not to put any down the screw holes. Okay, let's just get that on. And I'm going to make sure that slot there for the wing is nicely parallel. Actually, I could probably put a bit of CA in around here, the inside, as the glue isn't squeezed out. I'll hold it a bit. Okay, I'll do the other side, and then we'll come back and we'll have a look at the sheeting part, CC1. The pegs are off. Next step, 10, is to locate in your kit your 6mm square balsa. There's a couple of short lengths and several long lengths. Guessing the long lengths are for the wings, so I'm going to use these short lengths for this. So just mark them off, cut them, and fit them, one at the front and one at the back. Okay, simple as that. Next stage is CC1, the sheets. Now this is going to go over here and lock it into there, butt up to that leading edge, and there's a little infill to put in there, and then this, I don't think, it's lovely wood, it's not too hard, and it bends around quite easily. So let's just have a look at this. It's going to go like that. Now I want to mark this bit of plywood here. Just going to put a cut in the wood at the top. Just a cut there. It's just my markers. I use a cut instead of a pen. It's more accurate. There. So just whip that off. See how it looks. I'll go in there. Just going to sand the back edge there and front edge very slightly. That's how snug a fit it all is. White along there, white along there. On there. Okay, just drop that in place. But you get the idea, guys. I'm going to sheet the rest of this now, and we'll end up with a lovely sheeted box. But this is a petrol tank, and I can embellish it as well. Petrol tanks had obviously filler, because the tank would be filled by standing on top of, climbing up the fuselage, standing on top of the fuselage and pouring petrol into the top of the tank. So there's a little bit of embellishment I can do. So I'm going to finish this, and I'll come back to you when it's done, and probably just sand it up a little bit just to make it nice. Okay guys, see you soon. See you soon. It's a gorgeous fit, isn't it? This is interesting, guys. Before I make up these struts that support the fuel tank center section, I thought it would be rather nice if I could make a ridged effect, because it is corrugated and this is a bit plain, as nice as it is. So I thought, I know, let's print out something on the 3D printer. Well, my initial attempts were not too good, and there's 50 odd striations, curves in the tank itself. So I printed out this. It's a bit manky now, I'll explain why. So I've incorporated the filler cap in it and what have you. And my initial idea was just to lay it on, and to help it around, just heat it a little bit. Just literally a little bit, just to help it around. But it deformed quite a lot, so that was scrap. But then I've had this idea that maybe I can stick it to a piece of 1/64 balsa, which is half a mil, and CA it, and then with the grain of the balsa running this way, sort of try curving it around. So that's where I'm up to right now. So I've done a test piece on there to see what would happen, and it has stuck it where I've sort of glued it, and it will bend around without breaking. Well, I did damp it actually, so that's what I'm going to have a go at. Something to bear in mind is there's the brackets on the back here have a bar going down the back, so I've sanded it maybe slightly less than original, just so as to make room for the bar. And if that's not enough, then I can always maybe sand down the back of these plastics a bit. So that's where I'm up to. So my next job, and then also to keep the bars, should we call them in this case, to keep them equidistant, I've put on some masking tape. So now they won't change. But I can show you, I mean, just putting it on like that looks good, and it's almost tempting just to try and CA it down to that. but it's not going to go around this corner very well, around the front edge. So I thought if I glue it to a piece of balsa wood, I can then maybe heat it and bend it, and it'll keep its position. So that's what I'm up to now. This is my next experiment. So I think you agree it looks rather fine. And then I've got another one printed out plain that will go on the bottom exactly the same way, and somehow I'm going to have to sort of join them, work that one out as we come to it. So yeah, if it works, I should be very happy. So the next step, I've got some 1/32 balsa, but I've also got this 1/64, so that's going to be better. So I need to put some horizontal, do that, and cut it to the required width. Just looking for my steel rule, bear with. Here's one. This will do. It's got inches on it, but it can be over width, which is fine. So let's just cut that. How many do I need? 3? 1, 2, 2.5, 3. Got a little split there. That's nothing to worry about. Run some CA in that, because it is very thin balsa wood indeed. There's one video on YouTube that I looked at where a guy produced the bits he needed. It's very long-winded. He 3D printed a complete fuel tank with the effect already in it. He then took a mold of that and then produced a fiberglass one which fitted over the top of the original balsa one. Huge amount of work to go to. I think, although this is quite a lot of work, I'm enjoying the experimentation as always. Trying to think of new ways of doing things, you know, it's always good fun, isn't it? There's a split down through the middle of that, but it won't matter. And then also when I put this on, I can glue it directly to the fuel tank, and hopefully if it doesn't work when I've glued it all up, there's going to be a bit of a mess. But there you go, we'll see how we get on. I'm just going to try and cheat in a way of putting this on, because I'm not going to run glue all the way along because it doesn't need to be. I'm just going to do this and it'll glue where it glues. So my plan is now just to CA that in position. I need to spread it out a little bit. Use this bit of balsa. Now I really need to press that down in the middle to make sure it's down. Let me stick all this down, guys, and I'll come back to you. Alright, just to cure that off, I'm going to spray it. I really don't know if this is going to work, but we'll soon find out. I did think about printing it on a really thin layer of so I've got like a base in plastic. Well, in fact I did try it, but it's only a very fine layer and it didn't perform too well for some reason. So I'm going this way, but it's a good idea, you know, combining different technologies with known methods. We'll see. Right. So this is now about 1/16 of an inch thick, a couple of mils. Well, it's staying down beautifully there. I'm really pleased, really happy with that piece. The test is going to be coming around this corner, or this end I should say, because the grain's going the right way, but will it actually bend around? Right, so let's just damp this. That's not my spray bottle. What I'm going to do, I'm going to damp the inside of the plywood here. I know it's damp in the wrong side, but because that will tend to push it away, but it's going to help it to bend regardless. Now on this one I heated it slightly and it bends really easily, as you can see, but it warped and twisted elsewhere, which is why I've stuck it on the balsa wood. And the plastic is really stopping it from bending around, which is to be right. Okay, this is the test. Here comes the big test. I'm going to gently heat this and see if I can get it to come around. Maybe heat it like that, bring it around. Maybe laying that on, play the heat, and just see if I can bend it around. That would be ideal. Let's give it a go. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. But say with this, it required very little heat, so here we go. Get that parallel. I'm just gonna, here we go. I'll do it on a very low heat to start with. Have a hand on there. It's going. It's coming. Come on, come on, come on. Touch my fingers. It's hot. Let's just hold that there a minute. It won't take long to cool. Okay, so have a look at that. I'm hopeful that that is actually, look at that, it's kind of worked. I think that shows great promise, guys. I think that has actually it all stayed in line. If they stuck on, yeah, it's got to come around a little bit more, but I'm really quite taken with that. That's worked really well. I'm not going to. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to heat it a little bit more, or shall I get this end on first? Let's just do this a little bit more. So it got a little bit hot under my fingers, but I'm wondering if I can sort of press it down like that. That's not a bad idea actually. So let's try that, make sure it's parallel. And I'm going to sort of heat it and push it down like that. I may even just be able to leave that running on the bench. Let's give it a go. First of all, I'll just do that. And then that. And stop it there, because that's hot on my finger. Like burny hot. Oops. Give that a moment to be cold. That's pretty tight. Okay, go back to this end then. Look at that, round in one. Hold that. That's because I got a decent amount of plastic that end. And it's maintained it beautifully. Let's do that again. See how it's straightening out as I heat it. Let's just hold that. I'll heat that up again and bring it round a little bit more, keeping that at the back. Just wondering how I can keep this at the back. Maybe I could sort of glue it and then pull on it. If I glue it, there's no going back. This bit here I'm not going to trim because it's got a sort of a bit on the back, join I suppose in the tank. Might be a little bit too far up actually, but well, I'm happy with that, really am. The wing itself is this black line I've drawn on, and so these bits above and below are actually made of the same serrated. Just save that on and then cut out the bits that I don't need, or I could do with an edge actually going around there, so maybe I could stick a thin piece of balsa on or something to form an edge. But then I won't be able to stick that on. I could masking tape it all up and then try and emulate that shape. I don't know, but for the minute, let's just carry on with this. I'm absolutely over the moon about that. That looks fantastic. Really, really happy with that. So let's have a look at the bottom one. Now the bottom one, here's a piece. Can be quite short. I've got a spare one there. Let's use that actually, because I'm going to cut that down to fit between there and there. The first job is to stick the balsa wood on it. I could stick that on right now. You could stick that on with white glue, and what I think I'll do is white glue the main area. I've also marked incidentally where these holes are on the end frames for the minute. They're exactly 1 centimetre in, so save me wondering where they are. I might white glue the main area around the front and back and then just CA the very edge to hold it all in. There is one thing to consider actually. There's a metal bracket goes here, so I'll have to cut out the small area where this metal bracket is, but I'll do that afterwards. See exactly what needs to be cut because it extends out past here. This is part of the cabane fixing, so it will need to be slightly trimmed. Right, I'm going to end it short a little bit to make room for the CA, so let's just pop the white glue on. Oops, didn't end it short, did I? I don't want that to run down there. Let's just go around. Okay, let's get that glued on. Front front, back, back. Put a little bit of CA on the side just there to hold that. That's the top side done. Right, the bottom, one of these ends has to be cut, and it may as well be, well, first thing, stick it on the balsa wood, so let's just get a rough size worked out. Just to remind you guys, this isn't in the kit, this is just my embellishments. You don't have to do this, of course. I just feel it's such a eye-catching part of the model, and because it's given me a fantastic opportunity to do a little bit of experimenting on a model that's actually a kit, albeit a review kit. It's worth enhancing it a little bit, I think. Right, we'll just offer that up to there, like that. Okay, so that go on there. Now there's no need to heat this one because it's a very gentle curve. So that's the side, top and bottom done, and now I've got to think how I'm going to do the sides. Right, okay guys, there we are. I've done the sides much in the same way, and yeah, quite pleased with those. So the finished wing will now fit in there. If it doesn't fit, I can trim the plastic down anyway, but so that goes in there. Really pleased with how that's come out. Really pleased actually. So now I can get on with the making the struts, the cabane struts. So the way I do it, there's 6 pieces of aluminium tubing. 2 large, 2 small and 2 slightly smaller. They all need to be crimped at the ends, and to do that I'm going to, instead of just crimping it with a pair of pliers like I did with the undercarriage, I'm going to make up a little, I've got a little spacer there I'm just going to put in the vise like that, and it'll give me a crimp of about 6mm. That may or may not be a bit too much. Actually, that's not going to crimp it at all. It's the same diameter. Bear with me. It's got to be down to about 1/16 of an inch. That will go in there. Yeah, that's better. It's about 4mm. That's better. Now I can bend that upright, so that's perfect. Now all I need to do is to make sure that this is twisted the right way. Let's just bring it around slightly. Obviously I can't crimp it like that, it's got to be lined up. I think there's got to be probably an easy way to do that. Let me just position this for crimping. Nip that up slightly. So bear with me. What I'll use is a pair of pliers just to twist that until it's parallel with the jaws of the vise. That looks pretty spot on, so I'll wind it up, wind it back, and there's two crimps which are exactly lined up. That one needs to be tweaked just slightly like that. Now I can do that to the rest of them and drill a 2mm hole. Very clever, there's a jig to assemble this on, and I've got to break out the metal part. So I'll get on with this, get everything ready guys, and I'll see you back shortly. I did say I would probably do the cabanes on this video, but doing the fuel tank has really taken the time, so I'll crack on with the cabane struts in next week's video. But I think it was worth it, so I'm going to stop here and I'll just leave you with a nice shot of this. Look, I've done the sides as well, so the wing rib, well, the wing will fit in there like that when it's done. I can always trim the plastic if it isn't quite right. So I've got myself a rather lovely fuel tank, so I'm really happy with that. So yeah, we'll leave the video here and we'll crack on with it next week, get the cabanes in and see how we get on, see how it looks. Can't wait to see that fuel tank up in position. Okay, thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up button, it would be brilliant, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers guys, bye. Little sneak peek, I've done all the ends, only took a second. See you later.